friends. So I read a lot of blogs. And in October of my junior year of high school, I was really into this blog called Date by Numbers. It doesn't exist anymore. But the writer had this idea of something called Bold Moves October. And it started that year, and it was this small kind of inside secret online community of people who were doing bold things, which may have meant at that time smiling at the guy sitting across from you in class who you had never said hi to, or it may have meant somebody quitting their job and moving cross country, just kind of taking that energy to do the bold things in people's lives that they hadn't really had the courage to do before. And because there were all these people reading this blog and commenting and submitting posts, it felt like this intense, secret, important community where even though we didn't know the other people doing it, we were reading about each other's triumphs and our bold moves and getting inspired by them and feeling that we were encouraged to keep doing it ourselves. So I did it. And for me, that was climbing onto the roof of my high school during lunch, which I was not supposed to do, and going on a road trip and being honest with the people in my life who were not serving me as friends anymore. And when people were asking me why I was doing these things, I told them. I said, it's Bold Moves October. And they said, what's that? And they said, it's when it's October and you do bold moves. And they kind of said, okay. Allie's doing something weird, all right. People thought it was funny or strange. My best friend Ashley was really, really on board with it, and she started doing it too. My family kind of tolerated it. But because I was vocally saying to people, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is Bold Moves October, they remembered it and they started using it as an excuse or a reason for things in their own life. And it was this vocal intention I was setting by telling people I was doing it. And then the next September, I wasn't really thinking about it, and people started saying to me, hey, Allie, Bold Moves October is coming up. What are you going to do? And I was like, oh, yes, that. And it wasn't always positive. Sometimes it was people who were still kind of making fun of the idea from before, like, oh, it's Bold Moves October. And I don't know if people hadn't been doing that, if I would have thought to do it again. But there was this pressure on me because I had declared I was doing this thing the year before. And so I did it again. And the next year, the same thing happened. And my friends were doing it. And my friends' friends were doing it. And now it's extended, and people who don't even know that it started on a blog, my friend Ashley's friends think she started it and are writing like newspaper articles for their colleges about her and referencing her, and then she has to correct them and say, no, that's my friend Allie. I say, no, that's not me at all. And people ask me what I'm doing for Bold Moves October. So it isn't your typical community, because so many communities in our lives are these prescribed things that we join because we have an interest in them, but then there's other responsibilities that come with that, and they have their own missions and people already in them. But by having this goal, by putting a name to it, and by telling people I had this intention, I kind of, without meaning to, created this community of people who were supporting me on this goal. And even the ones that didn't support them were holding me accountable for it, because I commit to it vocally. And like those of us who were on that initial blog, who were reading each other's submissions and comments, there was this intention of watching each other and wondering what other people were doing, and being surprised by and inspired by it. And it was important. And I'm not the kind of person who believes in New Year's resolutions. I believe that when you have a goal, you should just do it. But people find that really scary. And when you dye your hair purple, people are gonna think you're crazy. And being able to say, it's Bold Moves October, people just kind of say, oh, okay. And they go with that. I've been practicing yoga lately, And when you start a yoga class, you're told at the beginning to set your intention for the practice or dedicate the practice to something. And that's a very internal thing. And if I fail at that, nobody knows. It's just me. If I forget about it, fine. By telling other people what I'm doing and what I want to do, I create a kind of pressure. And I have then created this community that's exactly what I want to be. It's a group that pushes me towards my best self, the self I'm willing to declare vocally, the self I'm willing to say, this is what I want to be, even if I'm not there yet. And whether people are for it or against it, they're a part of that community because they're watching. So when I was talking with the lovely Diana about what I was going to say today, when we were catching up about life, I had a completely different idea of what I was going to do. And I said, hey, so just so you know, this April is going to be my month of taking my future seriously and making it into what I want it to be. And she goes, oh yeah, your themed months. And that was kind of this trigger in my mind that, oh, like, people still know I do this, and they think about it, and they associate it with me. And I realized at that moment, by telling her that I was going to do that, I then kind of had to do that. So maybe you all can get in on this and join me and make April about living the life you want to live, not about saying, well, I have other things I should be doing right now, or I'm not good enough for that, that kind of imposter syndrome that is so common for, I think, everybody at all stages, or saying, well, maybe next month. And then she also said to me, you know, you don't have to wait till Friday. And I thought, yeah, that's probably good advice. I don't actually have to have a set date for living the life I want to live. So I went home that day and I commit to a graduate program. And I went to a yoga class, which I had been neglecting. And I posted online that I was doing this, and I started telling friends that this is what I'm doing. And again, I started creating that intention. I'm in a lot of different communities, in Elon, in less formal friend groups, in jobs. And they're not always the ones I want to be in all the time, although I've put myself in them for a reason. And I'm working on that, and I'm working on staying in the places that I want to be and putting myself in places that support me. But communities have their own goals, and that's part of the reason we're in them. My life is changing, and sometimes what I need to do is support myself and support my own goals and surround myself with people that support those goals too. I'm realizing that the only way I can do that is to create it all myself. Tell people what I'm doing, and if they're on board with it, great. And if they're not, great. But I'm going to do it, and I'm going to have that community of everyone I touch. Sometimes all that takes is announcing that I'm going to. Sometimes it's more of a plan. I think either way, it's just about being bold. Thank you.